Hello, everyone. My name is Distanced. I am the head of content with Aspyre Entertainment, and we are finally doing something I've been dying to get done, and we are having a one-on-one with our ever so wonderful CEO, Mr. Logan.
Hello. I'm here. We got it done. We're getting it done. Let's get this thing going.
I have been really dying to get to know Aspyre like through your eyes and like your vision, and also get to know you too because you're more behind the scenes and you don't really ever get to like put yourself out there,
For sure.
like I do.
I like to cook behind the scenes. That's like my that's where I reside. I don't have to worry about footage being like exciting, and I don't have to worry about like playing to the best of my ability or whatever it may be. I never wanted to be the face of the organization even from the jump. So it's like it's kind of easy to lurk in the shadows and just stuff is getting done. And obviously I do a lot of stuff with the players and content creators in the background and make sure that everything's getting done. But you know, as we are working through new content goals and ideas, here I am somehow finding my way into a video. So you said you wanted to get to know a little bit about Aspyre. It starts with like there's a little backstory. So I was a content creator for a short period of time. I wanted to stream, so I streamed. And I amassed a small community pre-college. I was playing a game called Vigor. Um, and Vigor is a shooter looter, extraction shooter, right? Whatever you want to call it. It was averaging like 150 viewers on Twitch at the time, max, and there were probably anywhere from 10 to 20 streamers live at any given time. You click on Call of Duty now, there's like 1,000 people streaming it at once. You look at
Mhm.
this game, there's only 20 people. So it was like an easy in for me, and I grew my community really fast on there. Before I knew it, I was averaging 60, 70 viewers a stream. Concurrent, it was great. Everything was going fantastic. If there were people live on Vigor, I was at the top of the category. You click on Vigor, my face is right there. It was great. So I thought streaming was going to be like the cream of the crop. The problem is you can't really make a living streaming a game that only 200 people are watching at a time, right? So I wasn't really doing it for the money. I was doing it because it was fun. It was like an entryway into streaming, but then
Yeah.
timing didn't quite line up. I got an interesting opportunity to go to college for virtually nothing, and I couldn't pass it up. So I went to college and wanted to keep streaming from college, but the connection there was absolutely brutal. So I couldn't stream from college. I went to a 2-year program in college, so associate's degree. The first year I really didn't do anything, but I focused on school because that was like an atmosphere that I wasn't good in. I hated school. I hated high school. I was a gamer kid. It's all I thought about every day, all day. So then you get into college and it takes a little bit of acclimating, right? But the second year, probably halfway through the year, I guess, is like an easy statement for me to make. I started this group of content creators with the people that I was streaming Vigor with. The group that we created was called Stream Fiends. But of course, we couldn't just spell Stream Fiends. We made it some funny ass spelling and, whatever. So there was this purple gator. It was like the only remaining piece of Stream Fiends merch that I'm actually aware of as even existing. So it was like this cartoon logo, like an alligator type beat, Stream Fiends. Like I said, we didn't spell it right, but it was very much so like an entry into creating some sort of content group. I think what we were going for is what hundreds of other content groups have gone for up to this point, something similar to KYR Speedy in the group, or Schmitty, or Vanos is a really big one that a ton of people know. Like, those were the groups that we were trying to go the route for with Stream Fiends. I guess, like, that was the very beginning of Aspyre. Even before I started streaming, I was a competitive Call of Duty player for an organization called Orbit Clan. And we competed uh, every weekend, practice throughout the weeks. Myself, Next Incendiary, Jaren, Genesix, Surfed. Shout out to all of those guys. So that was my crew. That's what we did. We played Blackout 24/7, competed on the weekends in Boom TV tournaments. And like that's where I was like, okay, esports, right? Like, yes, I
Mhm.
get it. At the same time, I started watching competitive Counter Strike, and I started watching competitive Halo, and all of this was like forming within the same year. It was like, okay, I'm competing, trying to make something happen on Blackout. Also, I love watching esports. Also, esports is amazing. How can I do more in this space, right? But then, like I said, obviously moving into content creation and going to college, I took a big step back from all. When I
Mhm.
graduated college and came back, Stream Fiends became a thing. And there was a very small community on Vigor. It was like a safe haven for me to come back to. It was, I can just go live on Vigor, and there's 20 people in there immediately. It was awesome. There was this thing called, I think it was Vigor Rivals. where they did weekend tournaments. And it was like, I've been playing this game nonstop. I am, for lack of better ways to put it, what I thought was the shit at this game. So I grinded out that and competed in that for a while. And there was a moment where I was like, I'm going to try one more time to compete. And right around that same time is when I met a lovely individual named ZLB Studios, aka Zach, who is the absolute GOAT. I could not have done nearly anything that you see today without his help or his input or his opinion or just whatever it may be. Like, there are so many things that would not have been what they are now. Like, Aspyre literally would not be a thing. There is an iconic picture. It's Zach and I sitting at his desk the first time we ever met each other. And on the screen, you can see we are like actively cooking up the Aspyre brand packet. Like,
Nice.
and it is the most OG picture ever because it's the first picture of Aspyre before Aspyre was ever even like a thing. To this day, it's like one of my favorite pictures. It's because there's so much there. He had this like, it's really interesting. I'm like corny in the sense that there's like signs everywhere, right? Like metaphors or whatever it may be. And in this picture up on the wall, he has this LED light of Saturn. I don't want to be like corny, but it's like, we're sitting there cooking. We're like shooting for the stars. You know what I mean? Like, we are making something that no one does. Aspyre is also the first thing that Zach and I worked on together. He was a part of Stream Fiends for like a week and a half before he spoke up to me and said, this shit ain't gonna work. This branding is terrible. It's ugly. It's gotta go. We gotta rebrand it. Also, Zach has like a major degree in design. A very well-known company. He's like the lead 3D designer for like, if anybody knows design, this guy knows design. So if he's going to come to me and be like, hey, X, Y, and Z, this is a problem. X, Y, and Z is Y. I'm not going to be the guy that's like, you're wrong. This alligator is awesome. You know what I mean? Like, so we turned, that was just like everything.
What made you decide to make it an actual organization rather than just a gaming community?
Esports, solely esports.
Okay.
And then everything kind of came after that. You start thinking like, oh, now that we're an organization, we can do merch. And we were kind of already doing merch, but we can do more elaborate merch drops now, not just a flag and a hoodie. We can like come up with our own design. Like, OGs that are watching this, that know about Aspyre will know about like the tie-dye drop, and we'll know about the skater collection, and we'll know about the block, the block collection where we like did the block sweatpants with Aspyre down the side and all this stuff. Like, unlocking that was like really creating a brand. Everything merch related that anybody has ever seen that isn't like a basic hoodie or a jersey was Z.
Yeah.
Z loved that. He took it, ran with it, ate it up. He would like outsource to other people that he either knows from work or had worked with in the past on other projects IRL. Like, the merch was Z's thing. Z took merch and it was like the happiest you've ever seen him. If we were talking about a new merch drop, Z was on Photoshop in the call, couldn't wait to start like coming up with designs and everything. It was awesome. It was very fun.
That's cool. That's really cool.
For sure. But the number one reason we turned Stream Fiends into an organization instead of just a stream team would be esports. I came from a competitive background. Z at the time loved esports. He was watching Rocket League esports, actually, which I know you're very fond of. Z was a huge Rocket League fan, like esports specifically. Obviously, he plays it, but at the time, Z was very gung-ho on Rocket League esports. We would talk about it all the time. It was his thing. But then also in Stream Fiends, Nex Incendiary was a content creator in Stream Fiends who was my ex-teammate when we competed in Call of Duty. So there were just a lot of little connections within this stream team or content team where it just felt right. Like, hey, we have to get involved in esports somehow, even if we're not recruiting a team. In fact, the first team we made, the first team we ever had, we didn't even recruit. The first team we ever had, OGs will know this name too. Tommy came from a competitive background. I met Tommy through a Vigor tournament. I met Tommy through a Vigor tournament that I hosted. Everything just made sense. So the first competitive event, and we have clips from this, which I love and cherish so much. The first competitive event Aspyre ever competed in was a Call of Duty 2v2 tournament. And it was so awesome that it was 2v2 because that meant we didn't have to sign a team. Tommy's going to play in it. Tommy played in it. and we found some other person online. I think it was just somebody that Tommy gamed with that we had known through some sort of connection. It definitely wasn't like a let's go recruit players and go through this
Yeah.
elaborate like skill search and background check and all this stuff. It was like, oh, that guy knows how to shoot people in COD. Cool, you're gonna play with Tommy and you're gonna compete for Aspyre this weekend. It was a very last minute thing, and ironically, like they didn't win, but ironically, that was the clicking moment. The first tournament we ever competed in, without even realizing, I didn't realize this until like 2 years ago, was hosted by Boom TV, who are the same people that was hosting the tournaments that I was competing in before I went to college. And it was
Oh,
like,
that's dope.
it was so
That's a
weird.
really cool that's
So
a really
yeah,
cool coincidence.
that's like a moment where it was like, holy, that was so awesome to me because it really came full circle. It was like, thank God. Not only did we get into esports, but like the big thing to me at the time was fact that the event was casted. All of our games were casted. So like the shitty thing is, and there are clips of this, they were calling us a spree. They wouldn't stop calling us a spree, and it was pissing me off.
Spree?
A spree. I don't know.
So
The
funny.
caster was like reading the name wrong. I don't know. And I get it. We don't spell Aspyre right, but like it's because of the branding and the dragon wings. It just made sense to throw a Y in there. Right. But it was just awesome that like he was casting, my baby, like something that Z and I, something that there's a picture of Z and I making virtually. It was like, what is this?
Mhm.
And we got addicted to it, honestly. It was solely esports and merchandise, like, really creating a brand because Z heard that we could create a brand and was like, yes,
Let's
like
do
we're
it.
going to
Yeah.
go all in on this. You know what I mean? I couldn't have done anything without him, genuinely. Not a thing. The amount of work
Mhm.
that Z did on merch designs and overlay designs and just really everything, like what a guy. What a guy, honestly. Credit Z.
So tell us a little bit also too what esports has Aspire competed in because I know some off the top of my head, but go ahead and list it.
Yeah, we started in Call of Duty with a 2v2
Mhm.
event of people that we just like put together, right? People that we had in house or had a connection. Ironically, this is going to be so funny. The next esport that we got into, I want to say, I'm pretty damn confident it's Valorant. We had a content creator at the time named MJPJ, who I know through an IRL friend. That's how I found him. That's how
Mhm.
everything worked out there. MJPJ was a huge competitive Valorant player. Loved it. Didn't like compete, but like liked playing ranked. I should say ranked player. Loved it and was like, we're in meetings, like weekly meetings, like, oh, just team meetings, like, oh, what do we want to see? What's next? Let's think about this. And he was always Valorant, 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 Valorant. And I was like, you know what? We're gonna take a crack at this. So Valorant was the next one we got into. The only person to this day that remains a part of Aspyre Entertainment from that original 5-man Valorant roster is Demon Riley. What a guy. I could babble on forever. From Valorant, we went to Rocket League. Rocket League just made sense. Z loved Rocket
Mhm.
League. I loved Rocket League. Rocket League was our thing, right? Got a Rocket League team. Cool. The Rocket League team opened up doors that we never thought we would have found with Marshall University, and that was our first step into like talking to colleges and all this stuff, and they won a couple championships for us, and that was just really cool. And we circled around those three for a while, Call of Duty, Valorant, Rocket League, just because they were easy. Rocket League's only 3
Mhm.
people. Call of Duty, I
Yeah.
competed in, Tommy competed in, like it just made sense. You know what I mean? We had all the connections to players and people that we used to play with. And then Valorant was like, MJPJ loved it. It was new. It was hot. It still is hot. But at the time, it was like blazing. You know what I mean? Like everyone wanted to see, Valorant. So that just made sense. A little later down the line, we got into Halo with a partnership with Astra. And that was short lived. But that's when we found out that we wanted to compete in Halo. And we took a pretty long hiatus from Halo before we came back to it. We picked up an R6 team. Shout out Dirty. Dirty was the captain of that RS6 team, really made it happen. I hated Rainbow Six. I hated it with a dying passion. I'm more open-minded to it now. I realize that it's probably one of the hardest esports to play. But the reason we got into Rainbow Six was because we had picked up another content creator at the time who very quickly became a leadership role, and his name was 5'7". 5'5" is a goat. There are probably 30 some videos on the channel where it's me, Z, and 5 playing together. Definitely go check those out and check 5 out. He still streams every now and then, I believe. I haven't talked to 5 in a long time. I think he's married now. But 5 was a huge Rainbow Six fan, so we got into Rainbow Six. That's when I met Dirty, and Dirty connected me with a bunch of people like Yali and Pickle. Pickle's a goober. I hope these random names who I have these random people are like going to circle back to this video because it's gonna be so funny. And that was just the cycle, really. We've always talked about like Overwatch, and then it just like was never the time. And then the Overwatch League
Mhm.
kind of had that rough patch, and then Overwatch 2 came out, and it wasn't like what everybody thought it would be. We've always talked about League, but nobody in the organization has ever had like a we know League mentality. And I'm not gonna be the guy that like fakes the funk and goes to a League team and was like, I love League, like come play for my org. I don't know anything about the game. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and act like I do, right? We dabbled in CS:GO for a little bit. That was an attempt. NA CS:GO tier 2 is kind of I don't want to say dead because that's harsh, but it's hard. It's very hard. It's hard to get into. It's hard to get recognized in. So we went the EU route. We had an EU CS:GO team, and they were great. Just didn't work out. We kind of went our separate ways eventually, but that was our dabble into CS, and we haven't been back in CS since. But Valorant has always been our big one. Valorant, Call of Duty, Rocket League. Those are the three that like we are absolutely obsessed with. That's not to say that we won't venture elsewhere. You know what I mean? Like there's always little things popping up here and there. I really wanted to get a Splitgate team for a while when Splitgate was like the shit, for lack of better ways to put it. You know what I mean? Like Splitgate was hot.
And then it wasn't.
And then it wasn't. Yeah,
Yep.
right around the time we were like, okay, we're going to get into Splitgate, it was like, okay, Splitgate's not a thing, Fine.
But we do have our ever so wonderful EASHL.
Yes. So the reason they
They
didn't kind of come up in this spiel is because the EASHL team I would still consider is like, even though they've been here for a while now, like over a year, like EASHL was the first time that we got into a new esport for Aspyre in like 2 years. You know what I mean? Like there had been a
Okay.
long time of like, we're just competing in the same esports that we've always competed in. Do not change. These are what we know. These are where we know players.
Mhm.
These are where our connections are. And then it was like the way that worked out was one of our original Call of Duty players. His name is Cash. Stopped playing Call of Duty and started playing competitive EASHL. And a long time later, he popped up in my DMs and was like, hey, I have this idea. Didn't DM me any information,
Okay,
like wouldn't tell
okay.
me anything until we got into a call. We got into a call and we talked about it for like 2 hours. Because at this point I was like, okay, in real life, I love hockey. Let's go Caps,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I love hockey. It's like something that I'm really big into. I love Madden, and although Madden isn't NHL, it's an EA game. You know what I mean? Like there's only so many ways that you can vary there. If you know sports, you know how to play an EA game. So it just kind of made sense. I played EA all the time, like the My Career and stuff like that. I would play that single player in my bedroom for hours when I was like a teenager, you know what I mean? So it wasn't that I didn't know the game, it was just that, like I didn't fully understand the competitive scene. And it is very similar to how CS:GO was at the time. NA, not really there. It's just not
Mhm.
really booming like it is in EU. So we picked up an overseas team. I don't even know how that connection happened. I've never asked them. I've never talked to them. Sometimes when you get good results, it's just best not to know. So Cash somehow met this group of 10 other guys and they made this team. And it came back to me because of Cash. And I was like, yeah,
Sure.
let's try it. Why not? It didn't cost us anything but new card designs. And I was like, what's the worst that can happen? This team goes 0-16 this season. Whatever,
And
shocker.
here we are.
Here
And
we are. Yeah, now they've won like what 4 events that we never would have saw
Mhm.
coming. They've gone through roster changes, and there are people that have stuck around, stuck it out. We're getting them jerseys, working on getting them jerseys right now and stuff. And so EASHL would like wrap up that big bubble of like esports that we've dabbled in.
Taking it a little bit personal for a second,
Do it.
what's your favorite food?
My favorite food, all over the
Yes.
place. It's all over the place.
Favorite genre of food?
American food, like the greasiest shit you can find. Like, you know what I mean? Like, one week it'll be pizza, and the next week it'll be like cheeseburgers. Cheeseburgers is probably number one, realistically.
What's one food that you could eat for the rest of your life if you had to give up everything else?
It's like endlessly.
Yeah,
Can I just say beef as like a broad?
sure.
Because I can do like steak and cheeseburgers and like,
Mhm.
or I guess if it's by itself, I can do whatever. Like there's tacos and everything. You can do so much with beef. I'll just say beef because it's like easy. But also I'm a
Totally.
sucker for pasta. It's all over the
Yeah.
place. Like I'm saying, one week it's pizza, the next it's cheeseburgers, the next it's mac and cheese. Like I'm 10 again. You know what I mean? Like it's just all over the place. I don't know. And then I was on like
No, I
this
get
weird
that.
chicken Caesar salad kick for a while, and like it really is like all over the place. Ribs are great. It's hard not to like ribs, wings, like Honestly, I'm a big back when it all comes down to it. I don't think there's a food I wouldn't try. I love seafood. Seafood's awesome. I know this is like not answering your question at all, but it
No, no, that's fine. We all no, just it comes to light that Logan participates in the big backery, and that's it. That's
cheeseburgers, lock it in, final answer. Done.
it. What do you do during your off days?
You know, I hate to make this like really depressing, and I don't want this to come out as depressing, but I don't enjoy video games for myself like I once did. That's kind of like a sad comment to me to hear come out of my own mouth. But I'm just not sitting here playing single player games like I was. Although I'll tell you this right now, Fable 4 is coming out this year, and I'm taking me a week off of work, and the world won't hear from me for a week because I was a big Fable nerd. I am excited for that, and maybe that'll like rejuvenate my individual love for video games. But like, I'll sit on the couch and watch some random esport event that's not even in English for 4 hours, you know? Like, happily. Like, I love video games. It's just like, I don't really play them anymore. My answer to that would have always been, I just play video games. I love video games. But now I don't like, I'll sit here and watch a stream. I've never played WoW in my life. I've been watching Summit play WoW for the last month and a half. You know what I mean? Like, I would never play WoW. I will literally never play WoW. You won't catch me dead on that game. It looks like it's a heartbreaker. I'm good. You know?
Yeah, no, because I have one too. I've never played Fortnite. I've thought about dabbling in it or like attempting to play it. I'm just not that great at FPS games. So I don't play Fortnite. But one of my absolute favorite creators, Casey Dia, love her, and she only plays Fortnite now. Met her through Rocket League, and but like she is one of my favorite like content creators to watch.
I don't know anything about WoW. Like, they're using all these gamer terms and like lingo for like all these move sets, and I'm like, I don't know what any of this means, but I'll sit here and watch it. It's great. It's awesome. So I would say watching esports, you know, whether Aspire's involved or not. You know what I really love that I love so much? Like the number one esport, at least right now, that I like can't get enough of is PUBG. The
Ooh.
spectator view for PUBG is actually so sick when you have four teams going at each other and they're like up in the air with a drone shot. That watching that esport is so legit. It's so cool. But yeah, I have my significant other I love to hang out with. We like watching TV shows. I'm a big Walking Dead fan. Sorry to be cliche. Anybody that hates The Walking Dead doesn't know what they're talking about. I love watching The Last of Us.
That was a good one.
I got waiting for season 2. I like to chill. I'm a family man too. My mom lives like an hour away, so sometimes it's hard to kind of plan that out. I know an hour's like not very far at all, but when you're working a lot, you know, on her end,
Hmm.
you know, she works 2 jobs, I work 2 jobs. It's like sometimes it's hard. But I do like to
I
spend time
get
with my
it.
family. We really love watching football together. Football's our big squeeze. I haven't missed a football weekend all season.
Who is your favorite person that you've worked with besides Z? Because we all know that you love Z. But
In
who's your favorite person that you've worked with in Aspire? And it could
in
be anyone.
relation to Aspire, it would probably be Z. Credit where credit's due. Damn. There's gonna be a lot of people upset that I snubbed him here, and very
You can
few, as
plead the
in
fifth.
one. You know what I mean? Like one person that's appreciative. There have been so many great faces and personalities that have come through Aspire, both beneficial to my personal well-being and like my personal life, and beneficial to the organization, obviously. But if you're
Yeah.
telling me I can't say Z and I had to put it on somebody else, I don't know that I could. The logical answer right now is like you, Bobo, and then there's
Mhm.
Mike, who has done so much for Aspire Esports, got us into Apex that I forgot to mention earlier. He's gonna hate me for that. There's five. Five is like, I've cried monkey tears on this microphone while playing video games with Five at 3 in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, and it has nothing to do with Aspire. It's just like me and him gaming and like opening up and getting really personal and like really becoming friends, and just like experiencing that portion of life together and whatever it may be, and just, you know, struggling with whatever it may have been that we were struggling at the time with the organization or personally, or going through IRL stuff, or, you know, this is why X, Y, and Z, and just always being there and joking around and so much. And then there's an individual, Alpha Sloan, who, you know, came in and did a bunch. Not a lot of people know that name. I think, you know, Tommy and Z and Five might be the only people that know that name. And then for a very short amount of time, Screw 09 was big. You know, nobody knows that name anymore. Like, not when I say nobody knows that name anymore, obviously people cherish this name, but I'm saying the people that are currently involved in the organization really don't know much
Mhm.
about that era of what was going on. Content creator wise, Slev taught me a lot about managing content creators. You know, no discredit to Slev was a great guy, you know, but Slev was by far our biggest community pickup, and it taught me like, hey, you better be ready to play with the big dogs if you're going to try and pick up big content creators. You know what I mean? Like, and
Mhm.
that's very fair. He never did anything wrong. It was just lack of connections on our end. He wanted to do a lot of things, and we wanted to do a lot of things with him, but there's just a lot of little things that didn't quite work out there. But, Slev helped me learn a lot personally through managing content creators. Tommy's like, Tommy would probably be number two. Yeah. Sammy Saucy, Chassis, Roto TV for a little bit. Tony? Tony wore a burger hat. To this day is one of the funniest content creators we've ever brought into this organization. We've had our differences. We had our long conversations. No disrespect to him at all. He's still one of the funniest content creators we've ever had walk through these doors. Roto was also very funny. Early content creators. Next, my boy, obviously, Drake Yorn, like very, very early. I got to give credit to the faces that were in here very early, because at that point in time, it's like, hey, come join this team. Why? I don't know. Just do it. Like, you
Right,
have
right.
no pull in that
Especially, yeah.
conversation. Like, you have no pull in that conversation. So the people that were here very early on were here just because they wanted to be. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't getting paid. We weren't editing videos yet. We weren't paying for merch. We weren't getting Rogue. We didn't have any partnerships yet. It was just like 3 to 4 guys. Hey, come join this team. Why? I don't know. Realistically. Like, now we have the pitch. Like, now we have some swing, and we can talk to teams, and we can talk to content creators. Then it was like, I don't know, because we're friends, do you want to be our friend? You know what I mean? Like, put Aspyre in everything you own, like esports people. I'm gonna rapid fire names right here. Riley, Matt, Dirty, Pickle, Eggy, Isaac Motion. Big shout out to the team that we had worked with your significant other, Zachy, and Apex. We worked with this guy named Bam. Bamverse, his name actually was. Anbu. Anbu was a big movement in the
Yeah.
AEG scene. We launched AEG there for a little bit, and then that kind of fizzled out. Now that's like a big work in progress. There's just so many faces. It's so hard to put that credit on one person, man. Genuinely, every single person, anyone that's been here from as much as 2 days to 2 years, has done more than I could have ever asked them to even give me 2 days of effort, in something that doesn't really mean anything to you but means the world to me, is like, I owe you everything. Even the people that, gotten in arguments on Discord calls or that were released from the organization. There's no bad blood with anybody. I can confidently say there's not a single person that came through this organization that I currently hold grudges with, like now, or feel some type of way about, that I know of.
Looking towards the future, how do you see Aspire growing in 2025?
It's a work in progress. It will always be a work in progress. Optic Gaming, who's one of the biggest organizations out there, is a work in progress. FaZe Clan is a work in progress. Very obviously, FaZe Clan is a work in progress right now. Like, it is always going to be a work in progress. I've had conversations with my parents. They know I'm dumping a lot of money into everything that we've done and are doing. And it's like, why am I doing this? I don't know. It's my dream, Like, this is what I want to
Mhm.
do. If I don't spend my money on this, then it is what it is. I have a lot of life ahead of me, knock on wood. You know what I mean? I'm gonna put some money into my dream now. We got to keep at it. It's like I said, it's a constant work in progress. We could find the cream of the crop, like, this is how our org is growing. It's going great. We're not missing a beat. Everything is great. And then in 6 months, everything is gone. That's no longer trending. Or the people that were involved in making that happen, had something come up in their lives and they're no longer with the organization or whatever it may be. You rewind a few years and we have 6 active competing rosters at a time, and we're uploading 3 times a week to YouTube, and new merch drops and partnership announcements, and everything was like boom, 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 boom. It was lining up. I would come home from work and I would sit at my computer until the very next minute that I had to go back to work. I remember like several times where I'd be up like 3 days in a row. I wouldn't sleep because I would come home and it's like, meeting with this partnership, meeting with this player. At the time we didn't have a head of esports, so that was me.
Wow. Yeah.
That was like, and I don't want to say we didn't have a head of esports, because we definitely had a head of esports, but it was like, it was too much for one person to handle. So I had to step in
Right.
there and do X, Y, and Z to help him out. It was just talking to everybody. And then we got the collegiate stuff involved with Marshall. And then it's like, okay, now you're talking to a college. You really can't skip a beat now. Don't miss an
Mhm.
email or a DM, because you're going to miss out on a player or a practice with a college. And our teams were winning. For the first time we saw a ranking in North America, our Valorant team broke top 50, and it was like the world, and we went to our first LAN event, and then we went to another LAN event in Jersey, and then it was like, we're talking to all these people. Shout out Aaron Rex, a goat. He made a lot happen. So even if we find that spot again, it's a matter of retaining it. Too many
Right.
pieces in the puzzle to make sure that stays where it is. it will forever be a changing revolving door. If I'm putting this much money into it, I will do it for 7 people just as hard as I would do it for 7 million people. I don't know what the future holds for Aspyre, but right now it feels like relaying the gravel before we pave the road. Because like I said, we had all those things. Our esports
Mhm.
were booming. Okay, well, 5'7" inevitably had something come up in his life. Things were changing. He's married now. Great, doing fantastic. I've talked to these people. 5''s doing great, right? But a sole reason our esports were doing really good. 5 was great. Tommy was our head of content. We were pumping out content videos 3 days a week. It was going awesome. It was fantastic. Tommy became a pilot, moved to North Carolina, I think, doing great. Actively a pilot for like a big airline. Z, obvious, like everything brand related, merch related, got a big promotion at work, is the lead 3D designer for, TBD, making way more money than he would have made in Aspyre in the next 10 years, like what do you do? Like, don't go do that.
Right.
Stay here and focus on this organization that doesn't actually mean anything yet, but it's getting there. You know, it's hard. And I understand all of the decisions that were made, but that's what I'm saying. Like, we can find the cream of the crop. Like, oh my God, in a year, we're going to have 5 active esports teams and our content team's going to be booming and X, Y, and Z. But then 2 weeks later, we could lose our head of content. That's going to shake things up in the content scene for us for sure. All I know is that I'll be here and I'm going to be doing everything I can to make sure that my help stays here and to make sure that their help stays here and to make sure that there's a flow of communication and hiccups. There will always be hiccups, family health
Right.
or whatever it may be. The toughest thing, this is real. Businesses in real life do really well if you have the money to make it happen. You want to go open a restaurant? Cool, go open a restaurant. You have the money to do it. It's going to be hard, but if you have determination, you're going to go do it. But you know what the difference is between opening a restaurant and trying to start an esports organization or content organization? I'm not with you. We don't have meeting times set up. We're not sitting around a round table. We're not, it's
Right.
we all have jobs. We all have a primary job to where we're already only available 2 days a week or 4 days a week or whatever it may be. Some of us are luckier to have more time open than others. And then, sometimes it's tough to schedule. It's really, 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 really hard to build a business 100% online. It's unbelievably hard. And nobody will ever know how hard it is until they just do it themselves. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, genuinely, if I had just buckled up and dumped my money into like some low tier IRL business or restaurant of some sort, it would be doing fine right now. It'd be great. But I chose esports. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't want to discredit the people that have done that IRL stuff. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying just scheduling and everything on this end is extremely hard. You know what I mean?
Right. Kind of leading into that, is there anything that you'd like say to your younger self as any like advice?
You're not as good as you think you are. Start managing sooner. You know what I mean? I thought I was the shit
Fair.
at Call of Duty, and as should every competing player. First off, I will never pick up a competitive player that doesn't think they're the best at the game.
Fair.
Doesn't make sense, right? You're competing, you got to be the best. You got to think you're the best, and you got to play to be the best. And if you don't think you're the best, then that's weird. You'll never hear an NFL player say they aren't the best at NFL, or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
I like this more. I think when I was younger, I was way hungrier for limelight than I am now. Like
Mhm.
I wanted to be the captain. I wanted to be the face of the organization. I wanted to be the guy that they were casting about and X, Y, and Z. But now I'm like, you say the word Aspyre, I'm happy. I'll sit in the background eating my popcorn, no problem. You know what I mean? Like, I'm chilling. Because at the end of the day, like I am involved in that. One way or another.
That's awesome. Okay, well, I think that about wraps it up.
Fire,
Thank you for your time.
of course.
Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next interview.